Hello again. I'm sure that I cannot be the only person to notice that this country does rather seem to be overrun with Nigerians lately. This is especially noticeable in London and other big cities. Of course, it's not only Nigerians, there are more Africans about of all descriptions than was once the case. 20 or 30 years ago, almost all the black people one encountered in Britain were of Caribbean heritage. Jamaicans, Bajans, small island people from St Vincent, Grenada, and so on. These days, Africans are fast catching up with Caribbeans as the young black people most likely to be found living next door to you or working at your company. The reason for this is simple, and Africans themselves make no bones about it. It's money. They have come here because they can earn more than in their own country, and Britain is, at least for now, safer than most African countries. This is not my own cruel and unfeeling opinion, in case anybody thinks that this is just something that I've dreamed up. It's based upon a survey of 4,500 young people in various African countries, all of them aged between 18 and 24. This survey, reported by the BBC, and to which I give a link in the description to this video, suggests that over half of all young Africans want to emigrate, chiefly to Europe and America and South Africa. It is called the African Youth Survey 2022, and it was carried out in 15 countries by the South African Ichikowitz Family Foundation. 44% of young Africans wish to emigrate for economic reasons, and another 41% for education. War and famine weren't mentioned at all as reasons for wanting to move, which is interesting when we see the number of Africans who claim asylum in this country and say they are being persecuted in their own nations. One chilling statistic that we really should take note of is that it is estimated that by 2013, Africans will make up 42% of the world's young people. It's very clear that the number of Africans arriving in Britain is just a foretaste, a small sample of what the future holds. The truth is that young Africans are giving up on Africa and simply want to get away from the continent. Quite a few young African people want to emigrate to South Africa, but employment there is currently running at 35%, and so there's a limit to how many people that country can absorb. We are in one of those ages when people are just upping sticks and moving to another part of the world. There have been many previous such mass movements of population, of course. This isn't some 21st century novelty. One thinks of the countless millions of refugees in Europe in the aftermath of the Second World War. And to say nothing of the many millions of Indians who were scattered throughout the British Empire in the 19th century, the survivors of the Highland clearances in Scotland, the Irish emigrants following the potato famine in the 1840s, and many other cases. This is simply a time when people are on the move. The problem is, of course, that a lot of them want to come to Britain because they see it as a land of opportunity. This happened to America in the 19th and 20th centuries when millions of people went there to improve their lot, but of course America's a lot bigger than Britain. The problem really is that nobody wants to talk about the possible outcome when more than half of all young Africans hope to leave their countries, and the fact that in 8 years these young Africans will make up over 40% of all the young people in the whole world. I have my own views on what might be done, but what is actually happening is that our leaders simply do not want a discussion, and they are determined to pretend that all those Africans crossing the English Channel are poor refugees, when they're really nothing of the kind. It's time for some plain talking about the biggest crisis to face Europe for many decades, but I don't see any appetite for a serious conversation about what's going to happen when so many millions of young Africans start streaming out of the continent, a mass movement of population has begun. At the moment it's a trickle, it will become a flood. And nobody really wants to discuss the situation.